All right, so buckle up for this one because we're diving headfirst into some seriously unsettling stuff today. We're talking about the history of FBI covert operations and, yeah, I mean, against us American citizens.
And we're not talking about a few isolated incidents here, right?
Yeah.
This is about decades of activity, systemic stuff.
We got a ton of declassified FBI documents to unpack, including the whole, the infamous COINTELPRO papers. Have you heard about those? Ring a bell.
Oh, yeah, the COINTELPRO files are wild. I mean, on the surface, it was all about disrupting groups the FBI considered subversive, but, and here's the thing, it actually reveals a pattern of behavior that goes way, way back, even before the official program, which ran from 56 to 71.
So wait, we're talking tactics the FBI was using even in, like, their early days, like back...
Yeah, we're talking 1920s early. There's this one letter, right, from 1919, from J. Edgar Hoover himself, outlining a strategy to take down Marcus Garvey, the black nationalist leader.
Right.
Infiltration, disinformation campaigns. They even tried to stir up legal trouble for him. It's all there, plain as day, in black and white.
1919. That's insane. It's like they had a playbook from the very get-go. And it wasn't just Garvey they were going after, was it?
Oh, heck no. Not even close. The Communist Party, during the Red Scare, they were all over them. Informants, tax audits, you name it. They even spread rumors to discredit them, make them look bad, all designed to sow distrust.
So it was about more than just gathering intelligence then, right? I mean, they wanted to completely cripple these organizations, make it impossible for them to function.
Exactly. Disrupt, neutralize. That was the name of the game. And, it's pretty disturbing when you realize just how wide they cast their net. We're talking some of the most prominent figures and movements in American history.
It's crazy, right? I mean, you've got Martin Luther King Jr., the whole civil rights movement. To think that the FBI was watching his every move, tapping his phone, just waiting to catch him in some compromising situation, all to discredit him, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it's all because they saw the civil rights movement as a threat, especially as it started gaining momentum, challenging the status quo. Couldn't have that. They wanted to control the narrative, keep things how they liked them, their version of order.
It's honestly chilling, and from what I understand, these tactics, they only got more intense, especially with the whole official COINTELPRO operation.
Oh yeah, COINTELPRO kicked things up a notch. The Black Panther Party, they became a prime target. We're talking infiltration, fabricated evidence. They even tried to instigate violence between the Panthers and other groups.
They wanted to turn these groups against each other, create chaos.
Exactly. One of the craziest examples, they basically inflamed tensions between the Black Panthers and the Jewish Defense League.
Yeah, what was their end game there?
It seems like they saw a chance to exploit existing prejudices.
Yeah.
Turn these groups against each other. Anonymous letters, fueling rumors, it all added fuel to the fire. And tragically, it led to violence, even loss of life.
Man, that's just horrifying. It really makes you question how an organization tasked with upholding the law could be involved in such, I don't know, morally reprehensible actions.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a stark reminder, right? Power, even in a democracy, can be misused. And we need to be vigilant. A free press, an informed public. That's what keeps things in check.
For sure. And it wasn't just the Black Panthers, right? Didn't the American Indian movement face similar tactics?
Absolutely. The FBI was all over AM, tried to suppress them, infiltrate the movement. They were even heavily involved in the Wounded Knee standoff back in '73, and then went after the leaders.
Wounded Knee, that's one of those events that I feel doesn't get nearly enough attention. What happened there? I mean, what was the FBI's role?
So AM occupied Wounded Knee, right? Protesting the mistreatment of Native Americans. And the FBI, they saw it as a threat. Moved in, cut off supplies, used all sorts of psychological warfare tactics, even snipers, man. It escalated into a full-blown siege. And honestly, the FBI's actions played a huge role in that. And sadly, lives were lost.
It's a dark, dark chapter in American history. One that, like you said, deserves way more attention. But here's the really unsettling part. Even after COINTELPRO officially shut down in '71, it's not like the FBI just packed up their bags and went home, did they?
No, not at all. They might have changed their vocabulary, shifted to buzzwords like terrorism, but it was the same game, different name. Their goal, silencing dissent, neutralizing anyone they saw as a threat. That never really changed.
We'll get into specifics after the break, but can you give us a little taste of what this post-COINTELPRO era looked like?
Let's just say that the case of Assata Shakur, the Black Liberation Army member, paints a pretty disturbing picture of how these tactics were alive and well even after COINTELPRO was officially over.
Wow. Okay, this is a lot to unpack. We're going to need a minute to process this before we dive into the specifics of how these tactics evolved after COINTELPRO. So before we went on that little break, we were talking about how even after COINTELPRO officially shut down the FBI's, let's say, unique bag of tricks, didn't exactly get retired.
Yeah, we keep saying things like disrupt and neutralize, but those are pretty clinical terms for what went down.
I was just thinking that neutralize doesn't even begin to cover it.
Right. So one tactic that really gets me is disinformation.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where you can't even trust what you read in the newspaper. Like you don't know if it's true or just like some elaborate lie to manipulate you.
Sadly, that doesn't feel like that much of a stretch these days, but I get what you're saying.
Totally. And the FBI. They were pros at this stuff. Planting stories, spreading nasty rumors, the works. Like they went after this group, the Republic of New Africa.
Mm-hmm.
RNA?
Okay.
Our sources talk about all these anonymous letters the FBI drafted, trying to make it seem like the RNA leaders were corrupt.
So they were trying to erode these groups from within, not just spy on them. Does anyone ever call them out?
You'd think. But these guys were something else. They were running this operation out of the St. Louis field office, where they created a whole fake newspaper.
Seriously?
Yeah. The Blackboard. Full of scandals, obviously made up, about black activists, all to cause chaos, get the movement to turn on itself.
The whole fake newspaper, that's next level manipulation. And they were cozying up to the real media too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They had ways of persuading journalists to run stories painting their targets in a bad light.
You mean propaganda?
Propaganda, pressure, you name it. And then they had their ways of silencing some voices completely, like pressuring media outlets to make sure their targets couldn't get their message out.
Wow. Talk about controlling the narrative. They were shaping public opinion, making sure anyone they saw as a threat couldn't even get a word in edgewise. And then there was infiltration.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Like straight out of a spy movie, sending agents undercover to infiltrate these groups.
Except it's not a movie, right?
Yeah.
They'd get these agents close to, like, the leaders, then encourage them to do illegal stuff.
Yeah.
That gave the FBI the excuse they needed to swoop in and make arrests.
So it was a setup.
A lot of the time, yeah. There's proof they were doing it to the Communist Party USA. They'd pressure their informants to bring up these controversial topics, hoping to cause these huge fights within the organization, weaken them from inside.
Classic divide and conquer.
Exactly. But I think it's one thing to manipulate people, organizations, right? It's a whole other thing to mess with their minds.
Yeah.
And that's where the psychological warfare comes in.
Okay, now we're getting into some dark territory.
Yeah, and it gets worse. We're talking about spreading rumors, planting fake evidence, sending death threats.
No way!
Oh, yeah. They even staged fake suicides.
They staged fake suicides? That's messed up.
The whole point was to break people, make them doubt their own sanity. And it worked scarily often.
That's awful. Didn't they do that to Jean Steinberg, the actress?
Oh, yeah. They targeted her because she supported the Black Panthers.
Right.
They were brutal.
Yeah.
They planted a story in some gossip column saying she was pregnant with the Black Panther's child. Just completely made up. Wanted to ruin her.
That's just heartless.
It really messed her up, too.
Can you imagine to go through something like that, knowing this powerful government agency is out to destroy you? That's terrifying.
And as awful as her case is, she wasn't the only one. Our sources describe similar stuff happening to civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, anyone they wanted to silence.
So it's like they had their own twisted definition of order. You question them or the way things are, they try to silence you.
Yeah. And this brings us to what might be the most disturbing part of all of this. The FBI's role in encouraging actual violence.
Right. We talked about the Black Panthers and the Jewish Defense League, but there were other times when they basically acted as like puppet masters, right? Pushing rival groups toward violence.
Absolutely. They would use these rivalries, feed the group's lies to get them riled up, sometimes even provide weapons.
Come on, they provided weapons.
Unfortunately, there's evidence for it. It's a chilling thought.
That's insane. What about Fred Hampton, the Black Panther leader?
Oh, man.
That has to be one of the most horrific examples.
Hampton was a problem for the FBI. They saw how powerful he was becoming and decided he was too dangerous. So they used an informant to drug him.
They drugged him.
The night before, they had a raid planned on his apartment. While he was passed out cold, the police stormed in, shot him dead.
They murdered him in his sleep.
They did. And another Panther member, too. All the evidence points to the FBI orchestrating the whole thing. They wanted to make sure Hampton was out of the picture for good.
It really makes you think about how far those in power will go to keep their power, even if it means violence, Murder.
And the thing is, the effects of those actions,
Yeah.
they last. The FBI's use of violence, it hurt entire communities.
Yeah.
Created this distrust that never really went away.
And that's a whole other issue, right? The balance of power, the importance of accountability.
100%.
Ah.
And it's a conversation we need to be having, especially now with all this technology that gives these agencies even more power to watch us, listen to us. But we'll dive into all of that after the break.
You know, it's one thing to hear about the FBI going after groups like the Black Panthers or activists during the civil rights movement, but when you start to think about them orchestrating a raid that gets a leader like Fred Hampton killed,
Yeah.
well, it makes you wonder just how far these abuses of power really went.
It's a chilling thought for sure.
And how do we make sure that never happens again? How do you stop it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Especially today, you know, with all the technology that gives these agencies even more power to watch us, track us, listen to us.
So where's the line? How do we protect ourselves, our freedom, without sacrificing national security?
Well, I think it starts with transparency.
Okay.
The FBI, they operate mostly in the shadows, and that needs to change.
Right.
More oversight, definitely. From Congress, from independent groups, you know, people who can hold them accountable.
And accountability, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, if someone inside sees something messed up, they need to be able to say something, blow the whistle without being afraid of losing their job, or worse.
Couldn't agree more.
We need to protect whistleblowers, make it safe for them to come forward.
100%. And, you know, bigger picture, we need to be talking more about this, really talking. What's the role of intelligence agencies in a democracy? Where do we draw the line? When does national security turn into silencing people who disagree? These are questions we all need to be asking.
You're right. This isn't just some abstract history lesson.
Wow.
The legacy of COINTELPRO, the tactics, it's all still relevant today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at government surveillance programs, the whole debate about what you can and can't say online, free speech in the digital age.
Exactly. And it's on us, everyday citizens, to know this history, to learn from it, and to hold those in power accountable.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
What's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Freedom isn't free. You can't take it for granted. We've seen it again and again throughout history. People in power, they can abuse that power. They use fear, paranoia to justify doing some truly messed up things.
And it keeps happening.
It does.
What can we do?
Stay informed. Speak up when you see injustice. And never stop questioning authority.
Solid advice. This has been a heavy one, no doubt, but so important.
I agree.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
We hope this has opened your eyes a bit, encouraged you to learn more, because this is a conversation that's far from over.
It's just the beginning.
That's right. Until next time, stay curious, and most importantly, stay vigilant.